Hey, folks, man, this is Corey, and we're back with another From the Canopy podcast episode, and this is the Classics of Cinematics. This is the show where we take a look at classic films and cult classics, and it's spooky season, so this batch for this month will probably mostly be horror films, and I'm joined as always with my co-host Bobby Blockbuster.
Yo.
And we're excited today because we got a special guest today. We got Gigi Modrich. Did I say that right?
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. And I guess she's going to tell you a little bit about herself before we get into the show. So how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I met you, Corey, and Bobby at a comedy show in July. Mm-hmm. And it was so we met doing comedy together. You had Steve Mazan on. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a comedian in Washington, D.C. I perform all over the area. Recently, I've been able to crack that DC improv bubble and been performing on their main stage for a little bit. And so I'm 5 years into my comedy career. So I guess in the next half hour, you'll find out if I'm actually funny.
Yeah, and that's actually a good thing because I think at one point when this COVID broke out, the DC improv, there was a question on whether they would still be able to remain open. But I think the fans rallied and the management did what they had to do, and it's still going.
Right.
Yeah, it is strong, and definitely check out any shows you can there. It's a great business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And they've been very busy. There's a lot of great acts you can go see there, pretty much any given week. Just go to their website and look at the schedule and check them out. It's definitely still continues to be one of the best venues in the area. Mm-hmm. And so let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking about 1978's Halloween, and it's kind of interesting. That's the year I was born. Dang, I'm kind of old, but so here's the synopsis on this. On a cold Halloween night in 1963, 6-year-old Michael Myers brutally murdered his 17-year-old sister Judith. He was sentenced and locked away for 15 years, but on July 30th, 1978, while being transferred for a court date, a 21-year-old Michael Myers steals a car and escapes Smith's Grove. He returns to his quiet hometown of Haddonfield, Illinois, where he looks for his next victims. And
it was October.
Oh, okay, my bad. What did I say?
July.
Oh, okay. My bad. Well, anyway, this film is directed by John Carpenter. It's starring Jamie Lee Curtis. And I guess Donald Pleasance is the other notable cast in here, as well as Nick Castle as Michael Myers. And there's one other guy I want to highlight. I think everyone else is kind of fodder. Who's the sheriff? Was that Brian Andrews as Tommy Doyle? Or no, I think that's one of the victims.
Let me see. No,
my bad.
Tommy Doyle, I think, was the little kid, and that was Brian Andrews.
All right, Charles Cyphers, Sheriff Lee. All right, but yeah, that's it. And this thing was filmed on a modest budget. I think it was $325,000, somewhere around there, US dollars. Mm-hmm. But this thing made a rack of money. I think what do you got?
It says 60 to 70 million box office.
Wow, that's crazy. A pool. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's like thousands of percentage of profits right there.
Yeah, right.
Like this was technically a blockbuster for that year. I know whoever was involved in producing this, they were really happy with the results. But I guess let's get into it. What stands out about this film, to you guys?
Would you like to go first, Gigi?
Sure. So I took my notes, and so I have play-by-play, but that opening credit, do you guys remember the opening credit with that pumpkin? Mm-hmm. That pumpkin left a lot to be desired. Who the heck carved that pumpkin? I was like, the 6-year-old Mike Myers carved that pumpkin because the eye ran into the nose. It was all connected. Yeah. It was just a shoddy job. That's all I got to say. So John Carpenter, do better. Like,
yeah, that pumpkin
was not in pumpkin carving.
The pumpkin was hurt, but that music definitely sets a tone. I feel like the music in this film does a lot of heavy lifting. It's just setting the atmosphere and the tone. Like those keys are just really that.
Yeah,
what?
To your point, that's what I was going to say. That's what kind of sets the tone for me is the score, because it's on the all-star score list. You know what I'm saying? Like, you hear this song, you hear the song from Jaws or Ghostbusters. Anyone knows what movies these scores came from. So I think that was that's probably the best way to really start this film, and like you said, set the tone for what we're lead up to as the film progresses.
Yeah. And to your point, Bobby, like it's kind of the simplicity, and you'll see that throughout the film. It's the simplicity of it all that is also captivating. So from plot to body count to
yeah, I think it's kind of crazy too that when I rewatched it, I'm like, oh, as I'm watching it, I'm like it's been a year since I saw that. I think the first time I actually sat down and saw it was when I was in college, but rewatching it now, I think it's really interesting to open the film with Michael Myers' point of view as a kid. And it's weird, like as you're listening, like the sound really plays a big role in this, because you're hearing this breathing noise, and it's clearly a young kid's breathing. They definitely meant to emphasize that. And you realize that the opening scene that this young kid who looks really young, he's dressed in a clown costume, has killed his sister on Halloween, and it's so crazy. It's like, whoa, and I think this film plays into what was going on in the country at the time. You're looking at 78, which was kind of like the end of the major serial killer era. At this time Bundy was still out there. So yeah, they're definitely played a lot of that stuff was getting used to help amp this film up.
Well, and definitely to your point, like with the camera angles, they said that John Carpenter was heavily influenced by a film that came out a little before in 1974 called Black Christmas, and that was a film where they first did the POV viewing from the serial killer aspect, and the way that they amplified that in this film, it really like just amps up the creepiness and brings that scary element that this film carries through all the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Think about that shot when 6-year-old Michael Myers is outside his house, his parents come home. Did you get the sense that when his mom looked at him, she was like, did you murder your sister again? Like, the way, like, I don't know the direction for the parents at that scene, but he was just standing there with that chef's knife, and the parents were just kind of like, oh, boys will be boys.
In a way, yeah, it made me wonder, like what was going on? Like, I feel like they didn't fully grasp, or maybe that scene just wasn't shot in a way that I think could have been more convincing. Because it's like, first of all, I don't know, if I'm sitting in front of the house, I got a knife in my hand, my mom would definitely, what are you doing? Right. And then and her face is just looking so different than the dad's. The dad actually looked a little concerned, but still, and they're just sitting there staring at him, didn't say a word to him. I don't even know if he could talk. I got the sense that this kid has been mute, right? Just from looking at this scene without us hearing anything or having a prolonged experience, other than that initial scene. It just seemed like, something was wrong with this kid. But their reaction was a little bit undercooked, if you ask me.
It was underwhelming. Yeah. The only thing we know about Michael Myers at this point is that he must have asthma. Like, that's the only thing. Because you made that point, Bobby, about you hear the little kid breathing, and that's a great attention to detail. But when you fast forward to 21-year-old Michael Myers, totally, he doesn't seem like a 21-year-old. He's got that dad bod. He's got that heavy breathing. He is not fit. This serial killer.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it definitely does set the tone. And I guess as we get further into the film, we get introduced to Laurie Strode, who's Jamie Lee Curtis's character, and it is, you kind of get the, she's a high schooler, and she's doing her high school things and hanging out with her girls. But immediately, what's crazy to me is you see him creeping through the neighborhood. Right. With really no more explanation. We found out later that, it is Michael Myers, from Dr. Loomis. I thought that was a cool scene too, with Loomis kind of going into the mental place at night, driving in. And I forgot why he was going there. Did they explain?
He was riding with, it was a court date. He was riding with a young woman. And
okay.
One part about that scene that always makes me laugh is as Michael Myers is escaping, like the lady's like, I didn't know they let the inmates just walk around and they just pull up like, oh yeah, this is normal. And then like they start playing that weird sound, and like Mike Myers gets all ninja and shit, jumps on the fucking car and stuff. I was like, dude, this guy.
Yeah. It was great, man. The way they played that, because like you said, they're just hanging out. They're just standing in the middle of the night in their hospital robes, just standing there like at the gates. Almost like they're lawn sculptures just sitting there. Like, it's wild. But I think Dr. Loomis plays an important role here, because he's the one he's kind of the guy that knows but no one wants to listen to him. And I always love that character in the movies, and they always seem over the top or out of their mind, but he's our way of kind of getting more of the build up, the character of development of Michael Myers. He's telling us everything that happened, and all the just all the little ticks, like there's no soul in this guy, like there's nothing there, it's just pure evil. And he's hyping this guy up, even talking to the sheriff and all that. So I love his character. He's great in this film.
But it's also, to your point, it's also funny that everyone else just seems to have a certain level of obliviousness, or I don't want to say stupidity, but they're just like, they're not with it. Like if somebody's coming and telling you, we need to watch out for this situation, this guy is on the loose and he's coming here to fuck y'all up, you would think somebody would take some notes. You know what I mean? just get cautiously aware, leave the porch light on or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with this guy's known to have already killed someone at least, So, that's a bit wild.
So that's the thing, though, right? Like before Mike Myers breaks out of the institution, his body count is 1, right?
Yeah.
Like it's his sister, and so what bothers me a little bit is Dr. Loomis. He's a doctor. He's a man of science. But he is 100% in the water for like, this guy is pure evil, psychopath. Like there's not I'm like, what's the plan to treat the dude? Like, how are we going to help this kid out? He's like, no. We just got to keep him contained. I'm like, you're a bad doctor. I would not trust my relatives to your care.
Right.
I think the plan with Loomis was just to keep him locked up. And I think that was what the hearing was for. He was probably going to pick him up and go to court and make sure that he let the authorities know that we can't never let this guy out. We gotta John Hinckley him, so we can't never let this guy out into society because he's too much of a danger. But another thing that makes this work for me is I feel like a lot of the slasher type films, before this isn't the first slasher film, but I think it's the one that kind of made the genre be taken a little more seriously. You put it in this Halloween setting. It's normally a fun, a fun outing. You don't think about anything bad happening on Halloween mostly until this film comes out. And as well, it's placed in the suburbs. Like in a lot of these other slasher movies before this, you almost had to go somewhere or go to an exotic locale or be in a crazy situation to possibly be killed. But this guy's in suburbia, which is a lot of America looks like this town, and this guy could be out here. And like I said, serial killer era is in full effect,
And it definitely makes you second guess anyone who wears a mask moving forward. Like, it's like, man, shit, you don't know who's really underneath it now. You know what I mean? Like this dude was cruising. Granted, it was Halloween day, but the sun was still up, and he's rocking a mask all through the day, driving a damn station wagon. Nobody questioned that. You know what I mean?
To elementary school,
yeah.
Goes to the high school, drives around the neighborhood.
Yeah, he's in somebody's backyard in between the sheets. Like, it's like nobody wonders why this dude is masked up.
That was the crazy part to me is when Laurie's walking down the street with her friends and he cruises by them really slow, and they're like, look at this creep. And he turns around and looks at them full on with the mask on, and they just, to them, that's just normal because it is, Halloween day. So it's kind of weird. And like, think about this. I think someone could probably make an interesting film in this era where everyone's wearing these Corona masks, so just imagine that, like,
right.
And honestly, I'm surprised people have been relatively, behaved during this era. Cause like, if I was a criminal, this is going to be my time to shine. Because you already got the element of surprise when everyone's letting their guard down. Oh, he's supposed to have a mask on in the bank.
Yeah.
Another thing that I love about this film is also it really enhances that like cat and mouse scenario. You know what I mean? Like everybody seems to be chasing somebody. You know, Michael is chasing Laurie Strode, Loomis is chasing Michael, and it just
the one girl, she's chasing her boyfriend, and
one girl, I mean,
and vice versa.
And I really thought that was just really cool because it just kind of it helps with the pacing of the film. You know what I'm saying? Because even though it's I don't want to say it's slow paced, but I mean it moves, you know, at a gradual rate. But like with that, you know, that cat and mouse scenario, it really just kind of makes it cruise by a little faster and helps intensify everything that's going on as well.
So to that point, Bobby, I took note of the timing of the movie, and it's about a 90-minute movie, give or take. And at 1 hour and 13 minutes, that's finally when Laurie checks in on Bobby and Linda. Like it's a lot of the action that we know and that people I think about when they think Halloween happens in the last 17 minutes of the movie. Because of the way they paced it. So it was interesting to kind of do that time check.
Yeah, that is interesting. So like you're saying, everything else is all built up until then, and I think they do a pretty decent job of this. I mean, like I said, this thing is really stripped down as a film and pretty much bare bones. And like after the intro, we don't really get another on-screen death until possibly the dog, you know, which I felt bad for, because the dog was just being a dog, man. He was living in a doggy dog world until boom, he just he just barked at the wrong person, man. He was just doing his job.
Funny thing about that scene too is like the babysitter, she's like, you know, shut the dog up, but then you hear the dog yelp and she's like, oh, all right, cool. It's like, come on, man. Like, man, dogs don't make those noises for no reason.
I hate to judge the victim, but blame the victim. But this babysitter was the worst, man. Like it just like what works great is that moment, you know, Michael Myers is right around that house and she's just doing everything just so crazy. I forgot did she spill something on her clothes?
She spills something on her clothes and then goes to wash them.
What? I will spill something on my shirt and then wear that shirt for the next day. Like it's just like nobody strips to naked.
Yes.
And it's like, you gotta wash all the clothes now.
I mean, I have known some babysitters in my day that definitely would, you know, let loose while they were in people's houses. I've actually went to party at people's houses while they were out and the babysitter was, and we did whatever until these people came back home. But this was a bit ridiculous. Like that shot where she's in the kitchen down to her underwear because she got wet. I'm like, dang. And then she's going to use their washer and dryer.
Yeah.
Just to get fresh for the boyfriend to come over when they just keep, you know, talking about the fact that they're just going to get it in anyway. So obviously she didn't have no intentions on having no clothes on anyway. So what does it matter?
They literally said, I'm going to rip your clothes off.
Right.
Like,
yeah. You think it's going to mess up his vibes? Like, oh, you have a stain on your shirt. We got to keep it on now.
But then she goes to like pick up the boyfriend, or was that what she was going to? Yeah. And so, that's our first human death, you know, and I didn't feel bad for her, to be honest. Rewatching this, I was like, you did so many things that just should have just stayed in the house with the kids.
She should have just did her job. Cause you know, before that, she drops the little girl that she's babysitting off on the Jamie Lee Curtis's character anyway, so it's like you're getting paid to babysit and you ain't even doing your job.
It was crazy, man. But I don't know where that first came up, you know, with these films. So I don't know which was the first film to do it. Like when you know, because then we get to the other couple, you know, Laurie's friend and her boyfriend. They actually, you know, they boning, but then it's like, you gotta die. What was the first film to introduce that? Like the people that have sex, they're going to get killed. You know, I know Jason's done it a few times in those films. This film, I don't think Freddy has ever done that though. Freddy's you gotta be asleep for Freddy to come. So you're not really sleeping. You know, when I didn't mean a double entendre, but you gotta be sleeping for Freddy to get you.
Got it. No, like I think there's a lot. I mean, sex shaming is just prevalent in society as a whole, and then when you add the layer of like, even though the United States doesn't have Christianity as an official religion, like it's kind of like an unofficial religion, like in the United States. Like you add that layer of Christianity onto sex shaming and really like women shaming, like as far as like women being like owning the sexuality, like clearly that's a, you know, societally offensive thing. Like, so
yeah.
I don't know when that would have started, but yeah, it is interesting that like if you are sexually active, you have to die. Like clearly that's the only option.
And it, you know, it always makes me laugh too when Michael Myers, after he kills the boyfriend, he comes in with the sheet and he just puts the boyfriend glasses on over the sheet, and the woman, like, you can't tell that's not your man. Like, he's not talking, he's just standing there like 10 times more swole than the dude you were just laying down with. I mean, he's busting out the sheet.
He's taller too,
you know.
man.
It's like, oh, he's got on his glasses. That must be him.
Oh man, yeah. Michael Myers has some weird traits, man. Like that aren't really explained. Like for the fact that he's been locked away since he was 6 years old, and I think this night he's supposed to be 21 years old. But when did he learn to drive a car? You know, how does he like that?
Yeah, the doctor or the nurse mentions that. Like, I mean, a car is.
There's a simple
machine. It's like, I mean, it's not quite a pulley or a lever, but it's a simple machine. One goes, one stops, and like that's about it.
I don't know. Maybe Dr. Loomis took him out a few times while he was trying to fix it.
It was an automatic. It's fine.
Or maybe he's just been driven around so much he's just sitting back watching, you know, what people are doing. I don't know. But it's crazy.
Do you think, going back to that ghost scene, like that's my favorite scene in the movie, where Michael Myers, he took the time to cut eye holes out of the sheet before he put on the glasses. And like I interpret that as pure comedy. What do you guys think as far as like what was John Carpenter going for that scene?
Yeah, I think that's a light moment in the film that's just otherwise really serious. You know, I will point out that like this film is done really seriously. Like, and I think that's another reason it separates itself from whatever else was coming out at the time, because everything else was kind of B-rate and just schlocky. And he played this thing straightforward as he could be. So yeah, that is a limited a few moments of comedy you'll get in this.
Well, and also it kind of helps ease the tension, because the film is so tense, you know, cruising through up until that point, because you know every time you turn a corner he's out there watching, he's doing this, he's doing that. So I think that it was kind of like a tension breaker.
And you'll know during the sex scenes for Linda and Bob, which I only think of Bob's Burgers every time I hear the character's name. I wish they would have used those voices. Bobby, get me a glass of water. Like, on that sex scene, on the nightstand, there is a carved pumpkin that has a candle inside of it.
Yeah. Who does? You got a whole pumpkin. I noticed that today. I was like, you got a whole pumpkin just sitting on your.
Not for nothing. That whole town, they take, you know, jack-o'-lantern carving very serious. Like it seems like that is the thing to do in that whole town.
Yeah, they're surprisingly bad at it too, though.
Yeah.
They love it.
Yeah, I don't honestly. I'll let them slide a little bit on the carving, because I feel like high level pumpkin carving didn't appear until maybe about 15 years ago or so. You know, where people started getting really intricate with it, doing portraits.
And it seems like every time they show someone carving, they're using like the biggest kitchen knife ever. Like, who the fuck does that? Like, you know, you got a steak knife? Why are you using the big butcher knife?
We didn't have Martha Stewart wasn't around back then, you know, to see how to do it properly and buy her pumpkin carving kit, you know, with all the tools and, you know, and the stencils.
You know, another thing that as we get to this part of the film, another thing that really just stood out to me was I felt bad for the little kid. Because it's just he poor guy. What is his name? Yeah, was he? Brian Andrews, the little one. Man, because you think about it, like he's obviously a little bit of an outcast at school. The bullies come and they mess with him, and they tell him straight face, they're like, "Yo, the boogeyman is coming to get you tonight, bro." Yeah. And he's like, "No, man, no." Right? And then, sure enough, he gets to the evening, and the fucking boogeyman comes. You know what kind of mental warp that would put me through if like the bullies actually, if what they said were true. Normally the shit that they say is like, "Oh man, you just messing with me, man."
I mean, I don't know, like I had to to learn that the boogeyman was weird, like was scary. Like the first time I heard that, I'm like, some guy wants to dance with you. Like what is the boogie? Like he's just, you know. Then you know your cousins, they start getting mean. Like, oh, he's gonna get you. And you're like, oh shit, you know. But yeah, I felt bad for him because it was great. Like later on when he actually sees Michael Myers. And you know, and I guess his sister bumps him and scares him. He's like, the boogeyman. Oh,
yeah, no one believes him.
No one believes him. Like, damn, that was so sad. Dude.
And he's just got this little high-pitched scream. He just keeps screaming and yelling. I mean,
something's got to be going on for a little boy to make noises like that. Like, that's serious fear and dread and terror. Like, that's not just him mistakenly seeing something. Nah.
No.
Yeah, Lori wasn't on her A game right there.
She wasn't. I mean, it's the same as like if a dog starts barking, they're like, oh man, the dog's just being a dog. Nah, man, go check that shit out. Like obviously, every time he goes to the window, he comes back screaming like, yo, I'm seeing some shit. And she's like, man, you're chilling. You're tripping out. You know what I'm saying? You're disrupting the company.
And then the little girl's like, I believe you. And then Lori just looks at it. Oh, that's so cute. She's just trying to support him.
Right.
Like,
I was just sitting and eat popcorn.
They ate an incredible amount of popcorn. Like,
yeah, they did.
There was like more popcorn. I'm like, who even wants popcorn to begin with? I mean, I'll do it, but
it's funny because there was like a popcorn sitting on the counter and it looked weird to me. It looked like a half of a Pringles can and it had some popcorn brand like on the label. I don't know what popcorn that was. I don't even know, what.
I think this was at a time when you still had to cook the popcorn in a pan, right? Like you got like the Jiffy. You didn't have microwaves in '78. You wasn't getting bag popcorn.
You know what though? I remember my folks having a microwave. What was a microwave? It was a popcorn maker, and it was big. It was almost the size of like bigger than a blender. And you load it in, and it cooks the popcorn, and it pours out into the bowl. You can put butter at the top, so I guess the butter melts as it's cooking. To
Oh, that sounds fancy.
Yeah, but it was big and bulky and loud.
My first popcorn experience was Jiffy Pop.
I thought
that was the coolest thing in the world.
Jiffy Pop was out too because that was the one with the little, I guess the
foil bag.
Yeah.
You hit that motherfucker on the stove.
It came with like the wire coat hanger handle. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, that was a wild time.
Speaking of coat hangers.
What about coat hangers?
I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead into the movie.
Hey, go ahead.
So in the pursuit, so Michael Myers is finally in the house pursuing was it Lori?
Yeah.
And she's like, brilliant idea. I'll hide in the closet. No one will find me there. And like
yeah.
So Mike Myers comes in and her go-to move, like a gymnasium high school abortion person, was to get the coat hanger, untie it, and then precision poke him in the eye with it.
Yeah,
that was a great idea. Like from a survival instinct, that was a great idea because
it was quick though. Like she had done that before.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this was an interesting scene because right before that, this is her. I think she was going to check on her friend.
She went to check, and then that's when he first came,
And I think earlier before, you got the teenagers, they're talking about meeting up at this one girl's house. So I guess she went there, to check on them. And it's interesting because the previous victims, except for the one that died, that got strangled in the car, they were just laid out like it kind of on the display level, the bodies of the victims, and she goes in there and then he takes a slash at her at the top of the stairs and then she falls down, which is crazy.
She jumped out the window.
No, she fell I think she fell off the banister down to at first, and then after.
Are you talking about when she went to the friend's house?
Yeah, after he slashes her arm, like
oh, that's right. Yes.
And didn't and was able to get up. Like luckily she fell and didn't get concussed or break a leg or something. She gets up, and I think that's when she she's trying to get away and she fumbles her way into the closet. But yeah, it was interesting. But I think we did skip one of the deaths. With the so he comes in with the bed sheet with the glasses on.
Yeah.
Yes.
and I think honestly he does cut people on occasion, but he seems like he loves to strangle the women in this film. The dude he took out with the knife, but the women he definitely strangled. He made sure he did that. And it was just crazy. It was crazy seeing that.
Yeah, and I mean, and like I said, it's a testament to her survival skills, because she just seems battle ready. Like, for her to, the way they perceive her character in the first half of the film, like, she just kind of seems a little more like subdued. And I mean, she's nervous just about the friend trying to hook her up with a guy she's crushing on to go to a dance. And next thing you know, it's like, you're like, no, don't tell him I want to, link up with him and go to the dance. But when somebody come and try to kill you, she gets all like, Superwoman, and she just, I mean, like I said, her survival skills are immaculate. I don't even know if I would be able to handle myself that well in those situations.
It's probably gonna get me, yo. Like,
I'm damn sure not jumping out the windows. I got a thing with heights.
My initial thing is the initial reaction, because I think the only one really that saw him coming, in a way, besides the girl with the glasses, was the boyfriend. And then he's sitting there, and I'm like, bro, like, I don't know. This is gonna freak me out. Somebody's in my house is not supposed to be here. I'm not gonna be calm and talking to him nicely about him. Like, yo, what the fuck is going on? I'm backing out the door. Like, why are you here?
Right.
As I'm backing out my own house. Like, yo,
and by the way, you have a knife. I mean, and a mask. I don't know.
Well, that was a weird thing. When Annie was driving Lori to the babysitting gigs, they stopped at the store, talked to the dad. So what I think is interesting is we never talk about how the sheriff lost his daughter that night. But they stop off at the sheriff, and the sheriff is just kind of like, damn kids broke into the hardware store. All they took was a mask, some rope, and knives. And I'm like, what kind of kids you got in this town?
Right. Seriously, I've seen memes about something like that. Like, someone goes into a hardware store and that's all they buy. Like if you watch any of these crime documentaries or crime series, and these are like, that's exactly what's on some of these people's lists. Yeah, we tracked down on his credit card that he went to Home Depot and he bought some rope and some lime. And it's just like, dude.
We got camera footage that he stole a car in the parking lot, but
and all of this after Dr. Loomis has been hounding you all day, telling you about how dangerous this guy is, man. Like, it's
but not for nothing, it's kind of funny that, because when Loomis is talking to the one cop, the cop is like, look, we need to broadcast this, everyone needs to be aware. He's like, no, let's just keep it under wraps, because then everybody's gonna think everyone is Michael Myers. It's like, nah, man.
This is gonna ruin everyone's Halloween.
Right.
I'm like, bro,
everyone with a mask. Everyone with the mask is gonna be this football-sized man with a knife killing people. Come on, man.
I guess it gets dark early, but let's just say it was 7:30. It's gonna ruin everyone's Halloween, man. Halloween can end early, bro. Like get this out there. This guy's out here.
Yeah,
it's great. It's, you know what? I kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, I think the Gremlins was kind of making a throwback to this Dr. Loomis situation when they had those cops in the Gremlins, and they were like, "Man, we don't believe you, buddy. Get out of here, little green men running around." So I think this was kind of a throwback to this film, and Dr. Loomis trying to explain to this law enforcement why it's so crazy out here.
And not for nothing, it's kind of wild. Like, in these movies that are earlier on, they the image they portray about police, they don't seem to be too bright in a lot of these older films.
I think it's kind of spot on.
I'm just saying. I mean, I just toss that alley-oop up there,
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, man. So I guess we get to the conclusion. Anybody want to take the lead on this one? Because it's a climax. It's a climax that this thing has been building up to, and I think it delivers on a lot of ways. I mean, we get Lori, taking command of the situation and fighting back, but we also get this ambiguous opening, which I think was great, for this film, and I think a lot of films, have copied that since then,
No, it's great. I'm not speaking to the conclusion, but I wanted to ask you guys a question about near the end of the movie. Mike Myers is in the house Lori's babysitting in. She's trying to get out, but the door is locked. It's a glass door.
Yeah.
It's a glass door with a rake. And she's still trying to be polite and not breaking the glass was the last ditch thing that she did. She ended up having to do it, but I'm just kind of like, and going back to your point, Corey, about this theme of people in movies, whether it's Gremlins or Halloween or any other movie where there's one person who knows what's up but nobody believes them. I think it's probably like a hat tip to our societal like fear, like your individual fears of like not being believed, like not having someone listen to you when you know what's happening, or being deemed crazy. And that's where we get that link to the asylum in this movie as well. Like we're all afraid of just losing our freaking minds.
Right. Yeah, and I think this is kind of interesting too, because I mean I kind of get the sense too, if Dr. Loomis keeps going on and Michael Myers doesn't show up, they could have him in the mental ward, sooner or later. It's an interesting film, man. And like I said, there are flaws, man. I do think, like, I love the music in this, but I think also there's times when Carpenter overuses the music for emphasis. Like the scene where he stabs her at the top of the stairs. There's a stab like, and I'm like, I get it. I know it's an important moment, Carpenter, but relax, dial it back a notch. Like, and he does that a few times.
It seems like anytime when Michael shows up, like when she sees him again, you get that music like to help intensify. And it's like, I mean, sometimes the imagery is enough. We don't need that. And another thing that kind of makes me laugh. I mean, I thought it was cool, like how the movie came to a close, and they definitely gear us for a sequel. But the look on Loomis's face when, like, Michael first falls out the window and he's there, and then it shows Loomis look out the window and then he's gone. He just he looks baffled, like, oh.
Yeah, like this guy
looks like I'll be back here next year.
I also like the fact that Dr. Loomis got away with just opening fire on a guy, even though he's not a police officer. We don't even know if he's authorized to carry a firearm. It's great. No, I love it. Like, because he was ready. Like, he just like that's why I really like the character, because from the day, like, he didn't change at all. He was day one all in. And I think the gun just came out of the fact that he knew if this guy ever got out into greater society, it will be a problem. So if he could stop it, he was going to be ready to do it, no matter what, at what cost.
Even if he catch a charge. Yeah.
Which is great. I love that character, man. I'm not too familiar with the sequels. Like, I definitely saw some of them when I was younger, but I was also younger, so my brain, I don't remember any of that. But I think he does come back a few times, in some of the sequels, and to continue this franchise. But yeah, and I think he also showed up. Was he in the Rob Zombie remake, the first one, or was he just referenced in that one?
Dr. Loomis?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good question. I don't know if he was still with us at that point.
I don't know if he died in the series or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, overall, I could definitely recommend this film just for the just for the factor, like I think this thing became the blueprint.
Yes,
blueprint after a while, because like I said, the original slasher films, like, there was some good stuff out there, but a lot of them were really just B grade exploitation type stuff. And I think this marks, John Carpenter trying to bring some respectability to these type of films, and also elevating it, to another level, and making it just a little have more impact. And like I said, putting this thing in the suburbs, that just made this thing much more scarier. Like, this could be in so many people's backyards, man. There was tons of people probably renting this on VHS back in the day from their local video stores that didn't have a good sleep that night.
Right.
A lot of kids were seeing the boogeyman.
Yeah. And I mean, and like you said, I mean, just look at all of the slasher films that have came out following this film. I mean, almost our top 5 slashers they're all household names. Everyone knows who Michael Myers is, Jason, Freddy, Chucky, Candyman, you know what I mean? In this film, was definitely, the stepping stone that they all kind of branched off of. So I think that that's really, really cool. And I mean, he took a shot in the dark. You didn't know how this was going to really pan out for him. So
yeah, I think he did a good job. And also, I think and also we're getting I'm not sure if this was the first one to do it, but like I said, we get the protagonist in Laurie, so we get someone that actually stood up for herself and took it, into our own hands, even though she had an assist by Dr. Loomis. But going back to what Gigi said, the clothes hanger, you know what I'm saying? That was a crucial moment,
Knitting needle to the neck.
Yeah.
Clothes hanger to the eye.
Yeah.
He used what she had to survive, and the interesting, she cared about the kids too. Not enough to like be with them, but enough to like tell them to go hide somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
But see, that's something that I noticed throughout this, though. I don't think he would have killed any of those kids. Like, I didn't get the indication that that was on his mind. Maybe in other films, I don't know what happened, but there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, a lot of times in this film where he had the opportunity, but he just let them go, or he didn't kill the adult until the kids were clear of the situation. Like the first babysitter, like the terrible babysitter, you know, he waited. You know, there was a moment where I thought he was going to take her out when she goes into the laundry room, but then the little girl comes out to, you know, help her out. And he waits, you know, until the little girl goes back into the house and she's alone in the car, you know, to make his move. So
well, he's being respectable. He was like, man, she might still have some popcorn to make.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, it was a great film, man. And it's interesting because, you know, more of these things are coming out this month. I forgot. I remember talking to you the other day. I don't know what our next film is going to be. Did we decide that yet?
We got a couple on the list. Yeah.
So we'll you know, we'll keep y'all aware when we're ready to announce that. But there's so many things that build off of, you know, kind of this blueprint, and like you said, it sparked a big franchise. I'm not sure when did Friday the 13th start.
I want to say was it 79 or 80?
You know? Okay, yeah, that would make more sense. And also, I think that one stands out in a way because we've got a serial killer's a woman. Yes. You know, like so up until that point, it was like only the men were allowed to get into the fun of all of this. Equality. You know, right? Equality. Yeah, and we got more like men victims. I gotta go watch that one. We might have to make sure we get on that one by the end of this month. But yeah, I could definitely recommend this. You know, it is the blueprint, so there are some things that I don't think aged well, but overall, you know, it was definitely a solid effort and entry into the, you know, just the horror film and slasher film mode in general. Now, anything you guys want to say?
I mean, just to your point, I mean, I definitely feel this is a must watch. Anyone who, you know, enjoys the slasher film genre or just horror films as a whole, it's a must see. It's like I said, it's on the all-star list. You know, you have to, there's no way you can be a fan of some of these other films without paying homage to, you know, where a lot of these other films got their oomph from. So it's just like if you're a basketball fan, how do you know, like, you know, you love LeBron, but you don't appreciate Jordan, love Jordan, but don't appreciate, you know, Wilt the Stilt, or, you know, it's things like that. So just, it's definitely a credible film, and it's a testament to the genre. So yeah, I highly recommend it as well.
Yeah, it's a good entree. Like if you are beginning your horror film journey, and maybe you're squeamish, like this is a low body count film that you can get into that will give you that experience and the appreciation for the pacing that you pointed out, Corey. And
yeah, that is one thing too I want to mention before we get out of here. Like it is a low body count, almost a low gore film, you know, in a way. Like this thing probably could have got away with the PG-13 rating if they dialed back on, you know, some of the other stuff, but everything, a lot of stuff happens off screen, and a lot of the deaths are more chokings instead of like really gory and bloody stabbings, you know. So yeah, that's one thing that I noticed. Like it's one of, it reminds me of the chainsaw scene in Scarface where you know everyone remembers that scene. It's like, oh my god, it's so gory, but you don't really see anything. You see a little blood on a curtain and you just see a guy screaming, but there's no amputations or anything. It's all implied violence, and it allows our imaginations to fill in and make it worse than it actually was, you know?
Absolutely. And not for nothing, those are some of the best films, is when they leave some of these scenes to the imagination. Let us come up with what we think the outcome is going to be after it's been implied.
Yeah, definitely, man. So yeah, I guess that's it, man. Unless you guys got anything else you want to say about it. We're done with Halloween, which is definitely a classic of cinematics. And I guess GZ, can you tell the people how they can find you and your comedic endeavors?
Yes, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Gigi Modrich. You can also find me on Twitter. I am not active, so probably not that way, but I'm also on Facebook. I don't have a website yet, but when I do, it will be www.gigimodrich.com. Coming in the next 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. All right, that's what's up, man. And this is Corey. You can catch me at Monkey Blood on Twitter and Instagram. Follow the podcast at From Canopy on Twitter and at From the Canopy on Instagram. And you can email us from the canopypod@gmail.com.
And this is Bobby Blockbuster. You can catch me on Instagram, Bobby Blockbuster 118.
Yeah, and we'll catch you guys next time. I'm not sure what the next film is going to be. That's up to Bobby Blockbuster, but we're going to be back soon. We're trying to keep this going and do this every week because there's a lot of classics, classic films out there that we would like to discuss. But we'll catch you next time, folks. Peace.